So Eddie, in our last episode, we talked a little bit about Revise and your partnership with Solaris Renewables, and a little bit about working with the MassSave program and getting a MassSave energy assessment, and also doing installation and air sealing in a home. Today we want to talk a little bit more about ductless mini splits and how that fits in with your energy assessments and saving energy in your home. Um, Tell me a little bit about how mini ductless mini splits work, and why homeowners should maybe consider replacing their existing heating system with a ductless system.
Ductless mini splits and any type of heat pump system really taps into the evaporation cycle process. Now, that can get very complicated and is confusing to explain for most people. But if you think of the way your fridge works, where it moves heat from the inside of the fridge to outside the fridge, a heat pump or ductless mini split works the exact same way. The only difference is that the ductless mini split can not only move the heat out of the fridge to the back, but it can also spin in reverse and move heat in. And so that's how they work throughout your home. There's a piece of equipment outside, a condenser. There's a piece of equipment inside, maybe a ducted unit, maybe the ductless head, which is the focus. And what happens is they send a fluid through, and that fluid absorbs heat outside, then releases it and blows it off inside, and then absorbs it outside, and then releases it and blows it off inside. Even when it's 30 degrees, 10 degrees, 0 degrees outside, it can absorb some of the heat from the air there. So those are a great way that they can move that in. And then the summertime, it's amazing they can actually do the cooling for you as well by just switching it into reverse and blowing cold air inside the home instead of hot air. Okay, so that's more or less how the ductless mini splits work overall. As far as why customers and homeowners should move to them, there's a couple big reasons. One, it runs on electricity because you're just circulating fluid and running a couple pumps in there to evaporate and condense the actual fluid that's in place. So first off, being electric, it is extremely environmentally friendly. There's no fossil fuels that are burning at your home, which means that we can use renewable sources elsewhere at power plants or your own solar right here in your house to tap into those and feed those systems. So one of the greenest, or if not the greenest, way to go about heating and cooling your home. Another reason to do these is that you often have multiple zones or better control with a ductless mini split because it's localized at the head on the wall. So you can set that up to 75 degrees, and then when your wife is in the bedroom and she hates the heat and wants it nice and cool at night, you can turn it down to 68, and that one can be at 68 while the living room can be at 74. Or vice versa. The kitchen can be a lot cooler than, say, the bedroom. So very nice to be able to have that individual control as long as they're on the same heat setting. And then another big reason that we often talk about these for customers' homes today here in Massachusetts is because with MassSave, you have a whole home rebate of $10,000 and a 0% loan to help you tap into those systems. So essentially, instead of putting or replacing your old oil furnace with a new oil furnace and spending thousands of dollars with zero rebates, very high cost to run, you can instead use a ductless mini split system. You can get central AC out of it built in. You can get a $10,000 rebate to convert the whole home. You can finance the project interest free. You can do something good for the environment, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper than oil to run day in and day out. So really some great reasons to go with any type of heat pump or ductless mini split system.
Yeah, the ductless systems are super flexible in their applications, right? So talked a lot about the whole home replacement, right? Replacing your oil system, gas system, or maybe even wood or pellet, or supplementing them as well, right? So some cases, folks, we have a lot of folks that have doing addition, for instance, or even large additions in a lot of cases, and the cost or the complexity in running ducted or heating pipes out to that section is sometimes not only expensive but tricky in a construction application as well, where the heat pumps can be applicable to each area, kind of like you were saying with zones. So now you're just creating another zone or multiple zones as well. So there's a tons of flexibility. I know for us, we have a slab ranch. We don't have a basement, and then our attic is very tight. So when we're looking at upgrading or changing our heating system, and we didn't have any cooling system. We have casement and awning windows, so we had like a rigged up portable AC unit, which I jigsawed out some plexiglass and sealed it into a window, which was a seasonal solution, which frankly didn't work well. And now we have not only a new super efficient heating system, now we get air conditioning out of the deal as well, which was something we never had before. And
Now I
frankly, it's
gotta
very
ask,
dreamy.
did you use those Father's Day's toolkit to install that plexiglass? Because that sounds like a father special there.
Yes, but I also used to be a carpenter and builder in a former life, so I have some of those skills and tools. But still, it was always on the spot, right? It was what I had in the garage, and with the tools that I had, and it was hot, and we got it going day one. But now, using the MassSave program and the rebates, and I use the 0% heat loan to make it even more accessible for us and be able to take advantage of all those really great benefits, foregoing with a whole home, in our case, heat pump system. I mean, it was absolute no brainer. A lot of folks, yeah, if you do have access to cash or other financing, that's super. But the Mass Save program makes it really accessible, and who wouldn't want a 0% loan to do a home improvement project like that? So it was easy to deal with. Revise is great and help you navigate those pieces as well, which is amazing.
Now, Eddie, for a homeowner who maybe isn't familiar with ductless systems, they might be thinking, "Geez, I'm going to use electricity to heat my home." I thought that electricity was really expensive. Those old baseboard electric heaters and things like that. Whenever I had to put those on in the winter, it cost me a ton of money. And then those electric air conditioners that I stick in my window, like Brian was saying, that all of a sudden my electric bill goes way up, when I run those in the summer. Why is a ductless system different?
So an electric resistance is a one-for-one input to output. So when you have an electric space heater, baseboard, Eden fire looking like thing, they're all, you put in your 1 kilowatt hour of electricity, you're getting out the equivalent amount of heat. Very simple one for one. Heat pumps are normally a 3-to-1 ratio or more, especially when it's like 30s, 40s, where we spend most of our time in the winter. A lot of times you're going to get a COP, a performance ratio of the 3 point something or 4 point something. So essentially, for every one you're putting in, you're going to get out that 3 BTUs of heat in comparison. So there really is no comparison between electric resistance and heat pump technology. They are night and day different. It could be like gas and oil. And it's just a matter of the way we talk about them, that's just something that education is the only way we're going to combat that. As you mentioned, we're talking about people new to ductless mini splits. Well, if you're new to it, it's worth having an idea of exactly what we're talking about. And who doesn't love a good template? So ductless mini split head, it's like this. You put it right in your wall. Typically it goes up higher. It only sticks out about 8 or 9 inches or so. This is a bigger version that is for a very large addition or something like that. Most of them are only about 30, 35 inches across and about 10 or 12 inches high. So that's where you're blowing out hot or cold air. It's got a sensor right on the top of it. And they even have ones that are really nice that actually are floor units as well and can sit on the floor almost like the old school radiators with a much more new age kind of feel to it. That template's not as pretty though.
And Brian, you have a ductless system in your house too. Were you or your family, at all concerned about? Oh, I don't really want to put these, things on my wall. I don't know if that I like the way that looks. Was that a concern for you? And how do you feel now that you've had the system for a while?
Well, in my experience, anything different and new is met with some type of resistance, right? We deal with a lot in our industry, right? All of a sudden, everyone's concerned about their roof and what solar is going to look like. And I'm always like, when was the last time someone walked into your house and complimented you on your roof? And the answer, without exception, is zero. Never. No one's ever complimented me on how beautiful my shingles look. And very similar here, right? We're okay with radiators that are taking up space in every single one of our rooms, be it a steam or a baseboard, or we're okay with all these vents coming out of our walls, floors, and ceilings, or we're okay with taking up an entire window to stuff an air conditioner in it. But all of a sudden, there's a new unit that goes in the wall, and there's resistance to that. So I would say yes. At home, we had a division there where I'll say my wife was like, I don't want, that takes up space in the wall. And I was like, well, there's nothing there. And the solution, the benefit to it is X, Y, and Z, right? Things that Eddie's been educating us about. And do we want AC or do we not want AC? Because if we want AC, we're limited to those options. For us, right? Eddie had mentioned there's floor units. There's also ceiling cassettes, and folks, again, for whatever reason, gravitate to one of those options, right? And some folks are like, oh, I'd do it if it was the ceiling cassette, which that's a great solution. They're also sizable, pieces that go into your ceiling, which now requires a lot of times framing, right? So you got to cut the ceiling and do some additional framing up there to set it up to support the unit. On the floor, some people are more, accepting of that because they're used to a steam radiator or a baseboard or things like this. So yes, we did have some resistance at our home, but we moved through that pretty quickly when this was part of our long-term solution, right? We went solar 8 or 9 years ago, and with the idea that at some point we're going to have ductless mini splits to heat and cool the home. And we also looking, at some point we knew we would have EVs or plug-in hybrids, and we knew that was our goal as a family to try to leverage our solar system even further to control and generate our own electricity. And then if you can heat, cool your home and power your vehicles yourself at home, I mean, there's a lot of comfort in that as well. So we got past it pretty quick.